but it was put to a lot more use turning to be a slapper.
Did someone advise you to do that, that would be a good kind of career move for you?
I actually just really wanted to do it, and my dad was for it, and my mom really wanted me to be a righty too, so I just started switch hitting a little bit, and then I found more love for the left side. So.
Sure. And what about just on the bases, in the field, how is speed something that you can use to your advantage?
I just think speed is so important. I mean, it really controls the game. You can control, as a base runner, you control the defense's pace, how they react. You can get them a little razzled. I just think you have so much control, and I don't think a lot of people realize that when you're a good base runner, you have a lot of control of the game, and you can start playing little tricks, and it starts going to the mind. And I just try to use my speed to do things like that.
And just kind of what Taylor said about the conference not being as strong as the Pac-12, does that change the emphasis then of the preseason? Does it make it more important that you're not maybe going to be getting as many points in RPI in the conference season that you would have in the past? So you need more of an emphasis on the preseason.
I could say the more emphasis on preseason is definitely for that RPI for sure. But I feel like that kind of gives us more of a way to prepare of going in and not only, playing our best softball in preseason, but also being able to take hold of those games when it comes to conference play, because that's going to matter when it comes to hosting a regional, hosting a super regional, and that's exactly what we want to get back to. So that's the goal. That's the main focus, that we want to not only be both host sites for the regional and super regional, but we want to get back to the World Series. So.
And speaking of that, I mean, one of the things about Big 12 is you get to play the conference tournament in Oklahoma City for all four of you. What's that like, getting to know you get to have that experience in OKC even before the World Series?
I'd probably say it's about time, because literally we play a lot of these teams that play their conference tournament there, and kind of gives them a little home field advantage when it comes to playing on that dirt. And so I think for us, finally being able to kind of soak in that moment and go there and see what it's like, it's kind of going to give us a little taste of what we really want in reality, which is a World Series.
Obviously, it's depending on how the infield's set up, where the left fielder is, but which would you say is more effective? Which one do you like doing better, power slapping or chop slapping?
Definitely chop slapping. I would say that's my go-to mostly for everything, but this year we're trying to incorporate, make me more closer to a 5-tool player with my hitting, power slapping, and bunting, and putting more of those things to use. But typically I go to my slap.
Have you noticed teams shifting more than they have in the past? I saw that a lot last year.
Yeah, I experienced it. I got a good taste of it with Utah and Oregon, and those are obviously very good defensive teams. And I got my little taste of it. But if anything, it's made me this season train harder for those other tools to have, such as hitting away and power slapping and even bunting. Just makes you realize that college softball is so hard, and they're going to challenge you every time they can, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to win. So it just makes me want to be a better player.
What's the biggest thing that you look at when you're seeing the infield shift when you come up to the plate?
I actually look at the outfield shift a lot more. I think because they have so much ground to cover, they tend to give away a little more. But my main priority is just the ball in that pitcher's hand. I mean, at the end of the day, if I put the ball where it needs to be, move the runners, do my job, that's all that's important to me, not necessarily the base hit.
And we saw Taylor do a little bit more swinging away last year, and did you watch that and see how players change their game in that way?
Yeah, even with these two right next to me, I mean, the power to be able to swing away and then bunt the very next pitch is just undeniable, and you can't really defend it at all. So me trying to implicate both of them in what they do, just even Kaya being able to bunt, slap, Logan too, we have a lot of speed. It's just I want that tool set as well, and I think they've influenced me in a good way to, want that in my back pocket.
Dakota, what made you start playing this game?
My dad played baseball, and honestly, my parents threw me into a lot of sports. I played soccer, played volleyball, softball, but I think softball was just the one that stuck. I played both competitive softball and soccer for a while, but then ultimately just fell in love with softball. So it just stuck, and I just kept going with it.
What are some of the things your father kind of told you about the game and how to approach it, hitting, and the like?
I think just being confident in myself and being sure in who I am as a hitter, and that's definitely stuck with me all the way up until where I am now.
Who were some of the players you kind of looked at growing up and wanted to emulate?
I don't have a lot. I think my first number was 16, just for like Bo Jackson, but I would honestly, that would be the only one that like me and my dad talked about.
What was Miranda's wedding like, you guys?
It was really fun. It was super cool to kind of be there for her and just support her and like her life out of softball. I feel like we try to implement that a lot. Like we're on the softball field so much, but just being in each other's lives outside of softball kind of creates those great relationships on the field. So it was just fun to be there for her and support her in this new chapter of her life.
What are maybe the biggest off-season story in the world of college softball was Dakota Kennedy transferring from Stanford to Texas Tech, huge NIL deal. When you guys, for any of you guys, when you heard about that, what was your reaction? What did you think?
I just thought it was really exciting. I mean, you saw a lot of Pac-12 players go to the Big 12. A lot of Washington girls, Ruby Malin's at Oklahoma State too, and then Texas Tech got a lot of girls. BYU got a lot of transfers. So I think this conference is going to be a lot more competitive than most people give us credit for. All those teams in there, and I think it's just exciting to get to play her again as well. Just compete and maybe a second chance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also super exciting just to see where softball is going and where it's growing as well. And I think my freshman year, it's been a huge change because we never had NIL and that opportunity until basically my senior year. And now seeing how softball's taken off and where it's going, it's kind of cool to see how much respect women's sports is getting right now. So can't wait to see. I mean, it's cool to see where we're at now, but I can't wait to see where it's going.
For each one of you, going down the line, who do you think is going to be the new rival in this league? Starting with you, Devyn.
I think it's going to be Oklahoma State. I think so.
Yeah, I would agree. Oklahoma State would get redemption from last year for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I don't. Trying to think. Probably Oklahoma State, but I kind of want to play Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Why Texas Tech?
Yeah.
Why Texas Tech?
Just because I feel like their team's really fresh. They got a lot new coach, new transfers, great players. I just think it'd be a great matchup.
I also think it's Oklahoma State, but ASU does not slip the mind.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, Deb, now that you're stepping back onto the field, what's it like, and what did you see last year in Tayler and Dakota to have them behind you? Dakota wins Gold Glove, and Tayler gets Co-Defensive Player of the Year.
I think that just gives me a lot of trust in my defense and knowing even when I don't have to get the big strikeout, I don't have to rely on that. I can rely on my defense to, help me get the job done. And that's the whole point of a team sport, especially when it comes to softball. And knowing that they have those awards and those honors, it kind of, makes it a little bit sweeter. And it kind of, I think, makes the rivalry within this conference a little bit cooler as well. It kind of gives us a little bit more of an edge. And I just think, our defense speaks volumes just as much as our offense does. And I think we're just going to be a well-rounded team, but when it comes to those defensive honors, you can't really win ball games without, closing the door on defense. So to me as a pitcher, it kind of helps me, ease my mind a little bit on the mound, and it just helps me kind of stick to my game and my pitching game and, just trust my defense.
For all you guys, including Devyn, because I know you're a two-way player, who is the pitcher or are the pitchers who've impressed you the most or given you the most trouble in fall ball scrimmages or recent intra-squad scrimmages?
Can I say all of them?
Yeah, seriously.
I'm like our whole pitching staff. It's just so dynamic. We can't go into any scrimmage or any live at bats just thinking this is the pitcher I'm going to get today. No, it's every pitcher is going to give us a hard time. And I think that's the best part because we're just getting ready for season.
I feel like our pitching staff also has so many different looks that it's good for us to be able to see all the pitchers that we have and all their different looks to give us more preparation for all the different looks we're going to see in season. So we're not primarily rise ball, primarily drop. We have a great mix of everything, different speeds, different spins. So I think that's just great to prepare us for season because they're making us better, but we're also making them better.
Yeah, and definitely shout out to Coach Amber and Coach Christian because they always strategize every day, and they try to not only have the pitchers and hitters, face off in a good duel, but they always try to, mix their game plans to where sometimes we have an unfair advantage or sometimes we'll have an advantage against the pitchers. So it's more of sometimes pitchers are going to have a hard day in a scrimmage, but sometimes hitters are going to have a hard day, and they want to see how we react because just like Tayler said, when it comes to like recovering after failure, that's what they want to see, and they want to see how quickly we can make adjustments, because when it comes to this game and when it comes to playing this level, it's going to be more about who makes the adjustment quicker. And I think that's the one thing I had to give props to our coaching staff is, allowing us to fail in moments, but also, teaching us to bounce back as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I think having all these looks at with all of our pitchers, always making us uncomfortable, I think it's a really important thing to do preseason, just so, it's so easy to get comfortable and lackadaisical, but when you have 8 pitchers, you're always on your toes, you're always strategizing, you're always preparing to do whatever you can to win, and I think that's what these 8 pitchers have really made us do, is always try to find a way to just recover, because, you think you got one pitcher and they throw in the next and you have to reset all again, and that's what softball is, so.
All right, that's all we have time for the players. So I'll bring Caitlin in.
Thanks, guys.
You guys good in the back? Good. All right, Kim, do you want to start us off again?
So your pitching staff, you'll have several this year who weren't in last year, but I especially want to know about the ones who were injured, Ryan, Sid, Devyn. Where are they as far as how healthy, as far as recovering from being away? That's
We have all 8. All 8 are cleared, healthy, ready to go. That feels great to say. In January, it was a different place last January. Devyn looks great. I think she probably got healthy, the earliest, as far as was kind of able to get back to 100% a little bit faster than the others. Ryan was still working through her rehab process throughout the fall. We feel like she's in a really good place now. Same with Sydney. So just excited to see what they can do, and excited to have a whole lot of options this year.
Players were saying that because you have so many different pitchers, kind of keeps them off balance, makes it difficult for them. Do you think that that's something that you can bring into games, and that kind of pitching by committee can be an effective weapon for you?
I think it works for us in 2 ways, honestly. Just like you said, us keeping our hitters off balance right now is preparing our hitters for adjustments throughout the spring, which is very cool. It's pretty rare to see that many different looks throughout our inter-squad scrimmages. Sometimes you just get used to a couple or a few and then have to roll in and see a whole lot of looks. So on the hitter side, I think it's super helpful for us. And yes, I think we have a Major League Baseball bullpen mentality where matchups are so important this year. Being able to keep people fresh is going to be really important this year. So just excited about those. And they've really bought into, Christian and having a role in the pitching staff versus just, going out there and winning innings. It's more so each person has a job to do.
For fans that are going to pick up the roster and see 8 pitchers, how would you best describe to them how we got to this point?
Well, when you have red shirts, everything, people transfer, Devyn senior year would have been last year, so we would have had, a different number. When we saw Saya in the portal, that was exciting for us because it's something that we don't have in the bullpen. So we're constantly trying to build just something that looks different, something that keeps hitters uncomfortable. And I think that's the biggest thing for us is, when people start to get settled at the plate, we're going to have a new look. And someone's going to constantly be ready to come into that game. But I've been most just encouraged with how competitive they are. They all want the ball in those moments. So that's exciting. And they're going against a tough offensive lineup every single day in our inner squads. And we'll be very happy on Thursday to play somebody else.
Ideal number moving forward? Is there a lower, obviously with Devyn coming back unexpectedly, obviously, but is there an ideal number in terms of pitchers that you think you'll carry?
No, I don't think so. I think, the days are gone when it's 2 to 3 pitchers. I think everyone would like to say that they have 4 or more that they can go to. And, we play, looking at our schedule, 5 or 6 games a weekend pre-conference. So I think the load of those weekends and being able to keep the people you want to keep fresh for postseason and a conference season is just as important as having those different looks.
Kind of touched on it a little bit, but obviously college softball has a pretty hectic schedule. So heading into the Big 12, you're making trips that are maybe a little bit farther than you would in the Pac-12. What are your thoughts on that?
We're excited for the challenge of it, honestly, and we don't have, I mean, we have a tough schedule this year, but not much tougher than what we would have traveled in the Pac-12 as far as distance goes. And, you know, the weather is going to be similar to going to a Utah and playing in the snow occasionally. But we're excited for the new cities, new challenges, new competitive teams that we're going to see. And when you look at that conference top to bottom, it should very much so prepare us for the postseason after it.
Pre-conference is pretty tough this year, but you got a lot of former Pac-12 teams in. Was that something you were looking to do explicitly, or was it just that you wanted good teams and they were available?
Well, we know just, you know, what kind of games those are, you know, by playing those teams in conference every year. They're uber competitive. We're going to face some of the best offenses, defenses, and we knew we needed that preparation going into the Big 12 and going into the postseason. So very important for us to also just maintain those relationships, I think. And we were able to get 3, I think, this year, and we're hoping to continue that in the future. It's actually been kind of nice because having West Coast teams, it's easier for those teams to come to us. It's easier for us to get to them. So that's been nice as far as scheduling goes and being able to get good competition at our home field.
And getting 2 against all of them except UCLA, I mean, that's a little bit different this year. I don't remember you often playing the same team twice in those tournaments. Is that something that you'll see more going forward, is playing the top team twice?
Yes, and it's hard. It's hard. You know, it's tough to schedule and get teams to come to you. And, you know, Lauren Lappin does a great job of scheduling every year as far as reaching out and getting good competition at the tournaments. And then just it goes according to who we can get in, and then we schedule out appropriately. So with getting a good mix of some really good RPI teams pre-conference is going to be nice.
The girls were kind of all on the same page with Oklahoma State maybe being the new rival in the Big 12. Who do you think is going to be the new rival?
I think there's going to be a lot of competitive series, honestly. But yes, Oklahoma State, I think because we faced them for a few years now, and then ending the way we did last year, of course. And then Texas Tech, right? I mean, made big moves in the offseason, and we're going to have one of the best pitchers in the conference again, which is exciting for us. It's exciting for us to face the best competition to get prepared for the postseason. So, you know, Baylor's tough, BYU's tough. Everybody brings something, and they had a whole lot of surprises against some really good teams last year, taking Oklahoma down in those situations. So we're excited about it. I think we won't know until we get into it and see what happens. But yeah, just excited for the chance.
What are some of the ways that Regan Shockey is able to use her speed as a weapon?
I mean, how does she not use her speed? I think is the question. I think defensively, tracking balls down. I mean, bunting, slapping. She's developed some pop this year, which she's just, you know, been working on throughout last year and this year. She just is headsy, though. So she plays the game. She watches defenses. She's one step ahead of when someone puts the ball in play defensively. She doesn't take a break. So she's just someone that is exciting to watch because she's on all the time.
When she's on third base, are you more willing as a staff to send her if it's sort of a 50-50 situation on a pass ball or, you know, a grounder or something?
Well, the funny thing about your statement is that you assume that we send her, but for the most part, Regan has a mind of her own, and great base runners do, right? Great base runners, if they've waited for a coach to tell them what to do, it's too late. And we trust her instincts completely, and she proved that right away from the very first, I don't know if it was game, but very first tournament of the year, her freshman year, that she had great instincts, and she could really just push runs across the board, much needed runs, and in very big moments. So I would never want her to think twice about those instincts and never want to control that. And that's someone you you kind of let go because she understands the importance of, hey, I can't make the last out here, or, you know, when to kind of be cautious. But for the most part, she's going to trust her gut, and I'm very okay with that.
Your infield is going to be a lot of new faces this year. It looked like Jenna might be the go-to at third, but first there were a lot of changes, and second maybe Logan, but it looked like there's some shifting there. So what is it looking like? And we know Taylor, but everyone else.
Well, I would say we have a good problem in our inner squads right now because people are hitting. And I think offensively, it's going to depend on what the best unit looks like. We also have some options with pitchers who hit. You know, Miranda's hitting well, Devyn's hitting well. So that keeps a lot of interesting combinations and fun stuff that we can do with the lineup live. So it's really just seeing what kind of combination works best defensively and offensively for the day. It could be matchup based according to who we think we're going to face in the circle. So yeah, I think the great thing is we have so much more depth than we've had in the last couple years to where we can move people around and really feel good about it. You know, I can remember 5 infielders walking in for 4 spots last year, and you know, Taylor went through some injury stuff last year, so being able to kind of keep people fresh is a huge thing. But yeah, it's going to be who's hitting at the end of the day, and when the lights turn on, who performs.
Devyn back. She sat out all last year and she watched you guys play. What are you seeing from her now mentally as well as physically?
Well, I mean, anytime you put a competitor on the bench, they're just ready to be back in the action. And I saw that from her, I saw that from Rye, a little bit from Sid, and man, it's just, they're just waiting for this moment, waiting for Thursday, as is our whole team, for someone to be in the other dugout. But she's just a competitor. I mean, you guys see the fire when she's on the mound, the fire when she's in the batter's box. So that's been fun to have back because I know that spreads like wildfire throughout our team.
Obviously, just to kind of follow on what you were saying about the rivalry and scheduling Pac-12, or former Pac-12 teams, with the history of Arizona, UCLA, much like basketball on the softball side as well, do you anticipate a 3-game series with them at some point in the future in non-conference?
Potentially. It's tough when we schedule because, you know, to get to our max amount of games, it's hard to play a 3-game series. You kind of have to play 4, 5, 6 games in a weekend to kind of get to that max. We don't have a lot of travel partners that come to us midweek, so there's a lot of logistics stuff that goes into that. So yes, the relationship is what we want to keep going. I'm not sure, it's yet to be determined on, you know, if our bye weekends match up. That would be an ideal situation, but we do have to keep these pre-conference to, you know, 4 to 6 games, and usually we're in the 5 or 6 game territory.
Anything else? Good. All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.